The purpose of this week's speech is to discuss my anticipated efforts to become a more open communicator and figure out what approach I need to take to overcome communication barriers with co-cultures. Before I could understand what I needed to do to be more open and a better communicator, I first needed to learn more about other cultures and what possible miscommunications I might have. I've always considered myself a straightforward person and never gave it a thought that I might be misunderstood by someone else. According to our assigned reading, culture is the part of the environment made by humans. To me, this was very interesting. It seems like a simple enough concept, but humans are very complex individually and as a whole. Not to mention there are 7 billion humans in this world, and we're all unique. Now, culture affects language, religion, worldview, education, social organization, technology, politics, and law. Law is what I was best able to identify with in a logical way. Every country has their own laws, and breaking it down even further, every state also has their own laws. And even further down, counties, cities, everybody seems to have their own set of laws and sub-laws. But the makeup of cities or communities are families, and families even have their own rules and values and their own type of laws. Looking at culture from that perspective helped me to understand that, in a way, every family is kind of a co-culture, and that is how I had to break it down in my mind to be able to get a grasp on it. Culture is an enormous thing that encompasses so much of our everyday lives. Different cultures have different customs. Some things we do every day could be considered rude in other cultures. Looking people in the eye, even something as simple as eating with a certain hand, can be considered offensive to someone else. I've learned, for example, that in India, it is rude to do anything with your left hand because public restrooms do not have toilet paper, but they just have bowls of water for cleaning, and it's customary to use the left hand to do that. So, if you offer anyone your left hand or offer them anything with your left hand, it's considered an insult. And this is just one example of a cultural misunderstanding, but every culture, every family has its own set of rules and customs. Some of them are similar to others. Some are totally off the wall that we would never even think about. Education is one of the best ways I could think of to overcome some of these obstacles. Some things can be learned from school or on the internet, or even from past experiences. But when walking into an unknown situation, sometimes the best thing to do would be to simply ask. To me, attempting to overcome ignorance is much more forgivable than just assuming you're right and going on and possibly doing something you didn't know was rude. Mirroring someone is another good way to learn the cultural do's and don'ts. If you're in an unfamiliar situation, following the lead of a person who does know the customs of that culture is a good way to learn. And having respect is the number one thing that I could think of that would facilitate cultural communications. Almost any misunderstanding can be overcome when both parties are respectful to each other. I personally need to work on these things. I do love to learn about different people and traditions, but I do not often take the time to look at the people closest to me. I need to stop assuming that I am being understood correctly and start taking the time to ensure that I'm doing things correctly. I need to learn more about the people next to me than the people in a different country that I likely will never visit. I need to be more open to learning from people I work with every day. I have a horrible habit of voicing my opinions, and sometimes I say something that other people take offense to. Today at work, I was talking to the lady I work with who is from a different country, and I said something about women drinking while they were pregnant, and it was pretty derogatory. And the lady I work with explained to me that in the country she comes from, women do not stop drinking while they're pregnant, and in fact are given a beer immediately after giving birth to calm them down. She drank during all of her pregnancies and was offended that I thought it was wrong. Because we do have a lot of respect for each other, we were able to quickly overcome that misunderstanding. However, if I had not been so judgmental, it likely would have been less tense for that little bit. Now, what can I do to be a better communicator? I need to start educating myself better about the people I work with and ask questions in a way that is not judgmental, and maybe study up on things I'm curious about and that don't come up in conversation very often. Mirroring people when I'm in an unfamiliar location is another thing I need to practice. I do tend to do this somewhat automatically, but I need to take time to learn from it instead of just getting through the situation. And respect, again, is something I have for pretty much everyone, but it doesn't hurt to take the time to make sure that comes through, especially when I'm in a situation that involves other cultures. I will be taking all of these things into consideration in the future to help myself become a better, more open communicator.